No exaggeration. The president of our HOA had been shadowing my family for weeks, obsessing over our backyard because of a rose bush. When the sirens came screaming down our street, I honestly thought my life was over. But what she didn't realize was that she'd just set off a chain reaction she couldn't control. My wife isn't exactly who she appears to be. And what happened next? You're not ready for it. Let me roll things back for you. My name's Aaron Morgan, I'm 45, and I make a decent living selling hospital beds, wheelchairs, and other medical gear around $150,000 a year. Not glamorous, but it's taught me to deal with every kind of difficult person. Doctors who act like gods, administrators who say no just because they can. I thought I'd seen it all, until Olivia Bennett showed up at my door one Saturday morning. Olivia's our HOA President 48, recently divorced and running the neighborhood like it's her personal kingdom. She came dressed like she was starring in a luxury real estate ad, flawless hair, designer outfit, clipboard in hand. But the first thing I noticed? Her hands. They were trembling not from cold, but like she was holding herself together by a thread. I need to inspect your backyard for compliance violations. She barked like she was serving me a warrant. I stood there in pajamas, coffee mug still, warm in my hand, and asked the obvious, "What violation?" She snapped back, Section 4.7 Landscaping Standards. But when I asked her to point to the actual rule, she stumbled, got defensive, started ranting about HOA authority. That's when my wife Sophia stepped in. Now Sophia's job? She's always been vague. Calls it crisis management. I figured she coached executives through meltdowns or handled HR disasters. But when she looked at Olivia, she gave me that look the one wives give when they know trouble's about to explode. "Ask for documentation, babe," she whispered. People like this fold when you make them put things in writing. I didn't know it yet, but that one sentence was foreshadowing the storm we were walking into. I told Olivia, "Put it in writing. Cite the rule. Section 12.4 requires written notice." Watching her face go red was priceless. She expected me to roll over, but instead she had to scribble out a violation notice on the spot. She even asked me what color my house was painted, as if she couldn't see the beige siding right in front of her. I filmed everything, took photos, time-stamped the conversation. If medical sales taught me one thing, it's this: document everything. She finally left. I read the notice, and it was laughable. She wrote me up for an unauthorized rose bush, not a thing, inappropriate paint color, same beige as half the block, excessive garden equipment, meaning my hose dot, and the kicker? She was quoting from the 2019 handbook. The 2023 rules explicitly allow rose bush under 3 feet. Mine was only 18 inches. She was rattled, sloppy, and losing control. But that night, things turned sinister. At 11:30, my camera caught Olivia sneaking onto my porch, sliding 3 more notices under my door. She didn't ring, didn't knock, just slithered up like some deranged HOA burglar. One notice was for wrong paint shade again. Another for suspicious garden equipment. And my favorite? Violation of community aesthetic standards. Basically, she was fining me for existing. When I told Sophia at breakfast, she stayed eerily calm. "Aaron, this is escalation." She's documenting for something bigger. The way she said it, measured, professional, made my stomach twist. My wife had seen this pattern before. She wasn't looking at a nosy neighbor. She was analyzing a case, and she was right. 2 days later, at 2 a.m., Olivia left me a voicemail. Her voice wasn't angry anymore. It was cold, deliberate. "Aaron, you have no idea what you've started. Sleep well tomorrow, you'll learn what real authority looks like." That's when the psychological warfare began. Every morning, 6 a.m. sharp, Olivia would slam my doorbell and pound the door like the house was burning down. Not once, not twice, 12 mornings in a row. She called them compliance checks. I called it harassment. I filmed everything. And then she escalated again. She built a private Facebook group, Hillris Standards Committee, and dragged 85 neighbors into it. Every day she posted about residents who think rules don't apply to them. Never said my name, but everyone knew who she meant. She was building an army against me over a rose bush. What she didn't know was that Sophia had already seen people like Olivia unravel before, and when my wife finally stepped in, Olivia learned what real crisis management looks like. Honestly, watching her unravel was disturbing. Each morning she showed up looking less polished, hair a little messier, clothes rumpled, eyes wide with that unnerving, manic brightness. But what really shook me wasn't Olivia's dissent, it was how my wife reacted to it. Sophia didn't get angry, didn't panic. She watched Olivia's tantrums with this unnerving calm, jotting notes like she was analyzing a case study. She's escalating. If you don't set hard boundaries now, this behavior will spiral into something dangerous. She told me like she'd seen this exact pattern play out before. And for the first time, I started to wonder, just what kind of crisis management job did my wife really have? Then Jessica, our HOA treasurer, pulled me aside during an evening walk with my dog, Max. She looked pale, kept glancing over her shoulder. Aaron, something's not right. I reviewed the books. A company called Garden Advisory LLC has pulled $8,500 from HOA funds in the past year. And the business address? It's Olivia's apartment. That's when the realization hit. This wasn't about my rosebush anymore. Olivia wasn't just a control freak, she was running a scam. And then she went for my career. Out of nowhere, one of my top hospital clients called Dr. Peterson from Metro General. Aaron, someone claiming to be a neighbor, phoned in with disturbing allegations. They mentioned police investigations and specific details about your schedule. Should I be worried? My blood went cold. Olivia hadn't just called random numbers. She had dug through my accounts and targeted the 3 clients that made up most of my income. She was trying to nuke my $150,000 career over a flower bush. The neighborhood split like a battlefield. About 65 households fell in line with her out of fear, terrified they'd be next. Maybe they didn't like her, but they whispered that I was the problem, the one undermining community standards. 20 brave families backed me, tired of her reign of terror. The rest hid, heads down, praying to stay invisible. But what disturbed me most was realizing she'd turned my neighbors into accomplices without them even knowing. She convinced 4 different households to let her snap photos from their yards, saying it was for insurance purposes and property values. What it really meant was she was building a surveillance file on my family angles, timestamps, everything. When I confronted Mrs. Henderson, one of the people she used, the poor woman looked baffled. Isn't this standard HOA documentation? Olivia said it was about protecting our investments. She'd been duped into spying for her. Even her cousin Megan was visibly cracking. I'd see her in town tired, jumpy, like she was trapped. Later, I learned why. Olivia was paying her $350 a month in HOA funds, plus free housing to file bogus complaints with the county. Noise violations, zoning issues, even accusing my dog Max of being unlicensed. She was fabricating a whole paper trail to bury me in red tape, but then came the smoking gun. Jessica discovered photo evidence Olivia had submitted, bruises she claimed I caused. The metadata on the images? Time-stamped 1 hour before the supposed incident. She wasn't just lying, she was staging false evidence in advance, like some twisted performance. When I showed Sophia, she gave me that same professional look. Aaron, this is financial manipulation combined with stalking and manufactured evidence. Classic loss of boundaries. This isn't just neighbor drama. It's escalation towards something much darker. So my attorney fired off a cease and desist. By Monday, a county code violation notice was taped to my door. But here's the catch. The notice was filed 2 days before my lawyer's letter even went out. How the hell did Olivia know? The citation accused me of creating a public health hazard. Translation: Olivia's war on my rosebush had gone. From HOA drama to dragging in government agencies, the county officer Morgan showed up to inspect. Clipboard in hand, he checked every inch of my yard. After 20 minutes, he shook his head. "Sir, I don't see any hazards. Your yard's cleaner than most I've inspected this week." Then I showed him my documentation, the recordings, photos, timestamps. His bored expression vanished. He flipped through the log, eyebrows raised. "Ma'am's been busy. This looks more like harassment than violations." And then Sophia stepped outside. The officer's entire demeanor shifted from casual, routine to professional alertness, like he suddenly recognized something about her. Sophia analyzed the inspector's visit like she was grading a field exercise. "Classic de-escalation protocol," she murmured once Officer Morgan left. He gathered evidence, interviewed all sides, documented inconsistencies. Exactly how it's supposed to be done. When I asked how she knew so much about law enforcement procedure, she just gave me that same unreadable smile. "It's part of my work. We study how these harassment scenarios escalate and how to manage them." The woman was like a living textbook on psychological warfare. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if crisis management meant boardroom drama or something far more serious. But Olivia wasn't finished. If anything, the county inspection gave her fresh inspiration. Because that's when she started manufacturing evidence. I'm not exaggerating. My doorbell camera caught her in the driveway rehearsing conversations with herself, dabbing makeup on her arm, snapping photos at different angles like she was preparing for a courtroom exhibit. She was literally practicing how to be the victim of an assault that never happened. And then she aimed straight at my career. She didn't just harass my clients over the phone. She posed as a prospective buyer, booked a real appointment with my office, and showed up in person. On our lobby cameras, you can see her calmly telling the receptionist she felt unsafe meeting with me because of my so-called history of aggression toward women. Then she demanded to speak with management about safety concerns. Watching the footage back was surreal. She described events that existed only in her imagination, scenes where I lunged at her with gardening tools, threatened her in public, cornered her in her car. She sold her lies with such conviction that for a second, even I doubted myself. When my boss, Peterson, sat with me to review the footage, his face tightened. "Aaron, she looks genuinely terrified here. Are you absolutely sure there's no history? Because if there's even a kernel of truth, I need to know." That was the moment the panic hit. My top 3 clients had already heard whispers. If Peterson started believing her act, my $150,000 career wasn't just in danger, it was already halfway destroyed. And then there was Megan, Olivia's cousin. I'd seen her around quiet, withdrawn, avoiding eye contact whenever Olivia went on her tirades. Eventually, I learned the truth. She'd lost her job, moved into Olivia's spare room, and was surviving on $350 a month funds stolen directly from HOA accounts. In return, Olivia used her to file bogus complaints with the county. Noise violations, unlicensed pet reports, zoning complaints about my mailbox. All fabricated. Megan was trapped, part accomplice, part prisoner, but the fake injury staging was the breaking point. The footage was undeniable. Olivia standing in my driveway, smearing makeup on her arm, snapping bruise photos before she ever interacted with me. The metadata proved it timestamped an hour before the supposed incident. She wasn't improvising lies. She was scripting them, step by step, like she'd done this before. When I showed Sophia, her expression shifted for the first time. She wasn't just concerned. She looked alarmed. "Aaron, this is premeditated false documentation. People who escalate to staged evidence aren't just lashing out. They're preparing for something targeted, something specific." As if to prove her right, Sophia's phone buzzed. I overheard her cool, professional tone. "In cases where verbal threats evolve into false victimization claims, what are the red flags? What triggers the shift?" That's when it hit me. My wife wasn't just some corporate consultant. Her crisis management wasn't about office politics. She was trained to handle people exactly like Olivia, unstable, manipulative, dangerous. Later that night, I sat in the garage staring at the $12 rose bush that had somehow ignited a suburban war. Max, my golden retriever, leaned against me, like he could sense the weight in my chest. For a moment, I almost gave in. Maybe ripping out the bush and apologizing would end this nightmare. Maybe it wasn't worth the risk, but I knew better. Bullies don't stop when you cave. They come back for more, and Olivia had already crossed the line. The final straw came with her phone call. Her voice wasn't angry anymore, it was calm, almost smug. "Aaron, I want to thank you. You've actually helped me realize exactly what I need to do. Sweet dreams." Then she hung up. I just sat there staring at the screen, my pulse hammering. Because if you've ever dealt with someone unhinged, you know that sudden calm isn't relief. It's a warning. It means they found a way to hurt you where you can't fight back. And over the next 72 hours, Olivia proved just how far she was willing to go. She must have decided that sleep was optional, because her social feed turned into a 24/7 broadcast of unraveling thoughts. Between midnight and sunrise, she fired off more than 20 posts rambling. Essays about citizens forced to take justice into their own hands, and how authority only means something when it enforces consequences. It was like scrolling through someone's slow-motion meltdown in real time. The language got darker every night. By 3 a.m., she was writing things like, "Weak systems require strong individuals, and respect isn't given, it's proven." And then came the surveillance. That's when I realized this wasn't just harassment, it was obsession. Every single morning, at exactly 5 a.m., her car would appear across from my driveway. She'd sit there with a camera pointed at me while I did completely ordinary things, walking Max, dragging the trash cans in, checking the mail. She was building some kind of dossier of my suburban routine, like documenting proof of a crime that didn't exist. Even worse, she started shadowing me. If I went for my Tuesday jog, she'd be a block back, pacing me. Not close enough to confront, but always close enough so I knew she was there. Imagine living with your own private stalker who never missed. A shift. That was my reality. Sophia analyzed it with the calm precision of someone who had seen this pattern before. She studied timestamps, organized the photos, broke down behavior. And then she dropped a phrase that made my stomach twist. She's showing pre-violence escalation signs, Aaron. This isn't just anger anymore. She's preparing for something. Her work calls didn't help my nerves either. I'd overhear her talking to her team about hostile confrontation protocols and recognizing imminent violence indicators. It made me wonder what kind of job requires fluency in the psychology of dangerous people. Even neighbors who once defended Olivia started cracking. Patricia, 2 houses down, pulled out her phone at 3 a.m. to film Olivia pacing the street with a flashlight, muttering and recording. "She's scaring my kids," she admitted. Mike, usually neutral, shook his head one morning and said, "Dude, I saw her measure your mailbox with a ruler for 45 minutes. That's not HOA business. That's stalker behavior. But others? They kept quiet. I overheard one neighbor whisper, "Better him than me." People would rather sacrifice someone else than risk becoming her target. And then I uncovered the truth that made my skin crawl. Olivia hadn't been improvising. She'd been cataloging us for months, not just me, us. She knew Sophia's commute. She tracked what time I got home. She even knew the days I ran my jogging loop. That's when I realized I wasn't dealing with some cranky neighbor anymore. This was organized psychological warfare. Her cousin Megan was falling apart, 2 bags under her eyes, flinching at shadows, sitting in her car for hours because she didn't want to go inside. Later, I found out why. Olivia had forced her into filing dozens of bogus complaints on my behalf. Noise violations, zoning violations, even accusing Max of aggressive barking. She was roping her own family into her schemes. Sophia, normally a fortress of calm, finally let her composure slip. She looked at the footage of Olivia standing frozen in our driveway for 12 straight minutes at 1:30 in the morning. No photos. No clipboard. No flashlight. Just staring at our house. Her face went pale. Aaron, nobody does this unless they're preparing for something very specific. And that's when Olivia decided to launch her so-called endgame. One Tuesday morning, she waited until Sophia drove away for work, timing it perfectly, just like she'd been rehearsing for weeks. She stormed into my driveway, hair wild, makeup smeared, eyes burning with manic energy. "This is it, Aaron," she said, voice trembling with rage and adrenaline. "Time for you to learn what real consequences feel like." It's 7 in the morning, and there I am standing in my driveway in a bathrobe, fuzzy slippers on my feet, watering can in hand, while my neighbor has what looks like a full-scale mental breakdown on my property. The way she carried herself, you'd think she was about to unveil some secret weapon that would ruin me forever. And truth be told, it was her confidence that rattled me the most. "Olivia, you're trespassing," I said as evenly as I could, careful not to give her the explosion she was clearly fishing for. "Leave now, or I'll call the police." That's when she smiled. And not the kind of smile normal people have, the kind of smile you'd expect to see someone practice in front of a cracked bathroom mirror. "Perfect," she said softly, pulling out her phone. "Go ahead, save me the trouble." She dialed 911 right there in front of me. And then, like a stage actor hitting their cue, her entire demeanor flipped. "Please, you have to help me," she sobbed, instantly transforming from aggressor to fragile victim. "My neighbor's threatening me with a weapon. He said he's going to kill me." I froze, watering can dangling uselessly in my hand, listening to this woman spin a story so wild it almost made me question reality. The only weapon I was holding was a plastic garden wand. Officer Morgan showed up in record time, less than 5 minutes later. Credit where it's due, he did everything by the book, separated us, treated the situation seriously, and started taking statements. Olivia put on the performance of her life. Tears, gasping breaths, vivid details about how I supposedly cornered her and threatened her life. If I hadn't been living it and recording every second, I might have believed her. And then Sophia pulled into the driveway, her car door shut, and sunlight hit a decal on her vehicle I'd somehow never noticed before. Regional Police Training Academy Instructor. Morgan's head snapped up. His whole posture shifted. "Instructor?" he greeted, as if he just spotted his favorite professor. "Didn't realize this was your area." Sophia gave him that same calm, professional warmth I'd seen her use during those mysterious work calls. "Officer Morgan, good to see you. How's your de-escalation certification going? Finding the confrontation modules useful?" Olivia's expression, I'll never forget it. Imagine a soldier storming a battlefield only to realize the enemy they just charged was the entire national army. Her fake sobs froze mid-breath. She had just dialed 911 to fabricate an assault against the husband of a woman who literally trains police officers how to spot fabricated assaults. Cosmic justice. Sophia didn't gloat, didn't raise her voice, didn't even look angry. She simply began walking Morgan through what she teaches at the academy. The classic tells of a false report. Notice the inconsistent timeline construction, the absence of physical evidence, the rehearsed escalation, and the premeditation markers visible on video. It wasn't bias. It was clinical, expert testimony. Olivia had, in essence, staged a live training demo, except she was the example of everything not to do. The review was brutal. My doorbell footage showed me calmly watering plants, nowhere near Olivia, asking her politely to leave. Her 911 call, on the other hand, described me lunging with weapons and issuing death threats. The difference between reality and her script was damning. By now, at least 30 neighbors had gathered. They'd expected to watch another HOA drama. Instead, they got front row seats to the spectacular implosion of their president's credibility. People filmed on their phones, whispering as Olivia spiraled. "This is entrapment," she shrieked, desperate now. "She's abusing her position to protect him. It's a conspiracy." Every word just buried her deeper. Morgan didn't need Sophia to confirm it. He recognized the patterns himself. But with his own instructor calmly pointing them out in real time, Olivia's house of cards collapsed in public view. When Morgan finally told her that filing false police reports was itself a criminal offense, the color drained from her face. She had believed she was pulling off her masterstroke. Instead, she had just walked herself into a criminal investigation, with body cams rolling and experts watching. The ultimate weapon she'd been sharpening for weeks had detonated in her own hands. And then her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and all the remaining blood left her face. "That's impossible," she whispered. They can't have found it." At first, Olivia tried to keep up her act, but the second her phone buzzed, everything collapsed. Her face went pale, like she'd just seen her own obituary. She stammered to Officer Morgan, I need to call my lawyer right now." The message that shattered her confidence was from Megan. One short sentence. "They know about the other neighborhoods." Turns out, while Morgan was going over the false reporting penalties, county investigators were already digging into Olivia's past. What they uncovered was shocking. This wasn't her first HOA war. It was her third. She'd been hopping from community to community, leaving behind chaos, complaints, and lawsuits like a one-woman wrecking crew. Detective Johnson took over, and the 6-week investigation that followed was like watching a slow-motion demolition. Week 1. Investigators interviewed me, Sophia, and over a dozen neighbors who had quietly been keeping track of Olivia's harassment campaign. Sophia gave expert civilian testimony, cleared by internal affairs to avoid conflicts, breaking down the psychological patterns that proved Olivia's actions weren't random outbursts, but a systematic campaign. Week 2. Jessica's HOA audit blew the lid off everything. $8,500 siphoned away through bogus consulting payments to Megan's fake business. Week 3. The real explosion. Megan flipped. Cornered by fraud charges and terrified of losing her home, she turned on Olivia. Investigators now had 18 months of recorded conversations, text messages, and detailed plans of harassment. Megan confessed through tears. She made me file fake noise complaints, pet violations, zoning reports. She told me if I didn't help, she'd throw me out and tell my family I was a drug addict. That was the beginning of the end. At first, a chunk of neighbors still defended Olivia, about 40 people who thought maybe she'd just gone too far once. By week 3, after the embezzlement bombshell, only a dozen stuck by her. By week 5, after the criminal charges landed, her support had shriveled to 3, and they were all related. Her empire of control collapsed right in front of everyone. Meanwhile, my professional life completely flipped. My boss, who had once doubted me, called me into his office with an apology and a stack of subpoenaed evidence. "Aaron, we owe you. Not only do we see how she manipulated systems against you, but the company is backing you 100%. And frankly, we're considering you for recognition for the way you handled this." Clients who had once questioned my character actually increased orders as a way of making amends. But Olivia? She wasn't finished digging her own grave. Even under active investigation, she couldn't stop herself. She tried intimidating Megan. "You think testifying will save you? You'll end up homeless while I rebuild my life." She filed bogus complaints with my licensing board, instantly dismissed. She even called my boss, demanding the company fire me for being a violent criminal. Every stunt just added fuel to the case against her. Finally, the public defender, an overworked woman who looked like she'd seen this pattern 100 times, spelled it out. "Mrs. Bennett, you're facing 6 felony charges: embezzlement, false reporting, conspiracy, stalking, witness tampering, and fraudulent complaints. Without a plea deal, you're looking at prison." The psychological evaluation confirmed what everyone already suspected. Untreated personality disorder worsened by her divorce. In plain English, she lost control when her husband left and turned her rage on everyone else. The deal she got was light: 15 months probation, restitution, fines, community service, mandatory counseling, and a no-contact order keeping her 500 feet away from me and Sophia. Around $21,000 in total damages, her financial death sentence. But the humiliation was worse. Local news ran the headline, "HOA President's Harassment Scheme Implodes." Her mugshot and crimes went viral, shared hundreds of times with laughing emojis. She went from neighborhood queen bee to national cautionary tale, and just when I thought it was over, 2 days before her restitution deadline, I found an envelope slipped under my door. No return address. Inside one photo, my house, taken from above like from a rooftop or drone. On the back, written in red ink, "This isn't over." The handwriting wasn't Olivia's. So who was still helping her? And what exactly were they planning for her last stand? The photo under my door turned out not to be some hidden mastermind's threat. It was Olivia's final, desperate stunt. And in true Olivia fashion, she made one last colossal mistake. She asked her ex-husband for help. Yes, the very same man who'd left her for a younger secretary. She begged him to take drone footage of my home to make them pay. Instead, he went straight to the police, handing over everything: videos, text messages, and proof she was still scheming even after sentencing. Her downfall only got uglier. From there, as part of her probation, Olivia was forced to read a public apology in front of over 60 neighbors at our community center. Watching her tremble and choke on her own words was the kind of justice money can't buy. "I lost my husband, my home, my dignity," she sobbed, barely holding it together. "I just wanted to feel important again. I'm sorry." Even the judge admitted her trauma was real, but reminded her that real pain never justifies tormenting innocent families. And just when we thought she couldn't embarrass herself further, Olivia tried ambushing Sophia at Target. Picture this: crowded checkout lanes, 20 shoppers watching, and Olivia screaming, "You destroyed my life with your government connections." Sophia didn't even flinch. With the same calm, clinical tone she used in her training seminars, she cut Olivia down in front of everyone. Double quotes Olivia, "I didn't ruin your life. I documented your crimes. You ruined your own life when you chose harassment over healing. Then came the knockout punch. Strength isn't bullying families. Strength is rebuilding yourself after loss. What you've done is textbook pathology. Olivia broke down so hard she had to be escorted out by security. Within hours, videos of her meltdown were all over social media, labeled things like Karen versus reality, Target edition. Her reputation was gone, but so was her money. Between legal fees, restitution, fines, and counseling, Olivia sank into over $20,000 of debt. She sold her car, her jewelry, even her furniture just to stay afloat. By month 4, I decided we needed closure. So, I hosted what we called Liberation Day, a neighborhood barbecue celebrating the end of Olivia's reign. 50 neighbors showed up, even her old supporters, who admitted they'd ignored the red flags. We decorated that infamous $12 rose bush with flags and a plaque that read, "The bush that freed Hillrist, never forget." During my toast, I raised my beer and said, "Sometimes bullies pick the wrong target." And when you combine documentation, community support, and a wife who literally trains cops, justice has a funny way of showing up. The cheer that followed could have shaken the rooftops, but the real cherry on top? Olivia driving past in her beat-up car, forced to watch the entire neighborhood celebrating without her. She sat there for a few minutes, staring, realizing she had lost everything. A few weeks later came her final humiliation moving day. No friends, no family, no neighbors willing to lend a hand. Just Olivia, alone, loading 30 years of her life into a U-Haul marked storage unit. She couldn't even afford it. New place big enough for her old furniture. 6 months passed, and I thought the saga was over until the phone rang. It was a property manager from her new complex, Pine Valley Gardens. "Mr. Morgan," he said cautiously, "one of our tenants mentioned your name. She's filed 47 harassment complaints in just 3 months. Is this normal?" I almost laughed. "Unfortunately, yes. She never change. Good luck." But just when I thought that was the epilogue, fate had one last twist. Another 6 months later, I was grilling burgers in my backyard when I got a call from Metro Police. "Mr. Morgan," Detective Williams said, "we found something in a storage unit connected to Olivia. It belongs to you. Can you and your wife come down to the station?" Sophia and I locked eyes. What could Olivia possibly have left behind? That involved us? That is a story for another day. For now, I'll leave you with this. Sometimes standing up to a bully feels impossible. They'll try to destroy your peace, your reputation, even your life. But if you stay calm, gather evidence, and lean on your community, justice will find a way. And sometimes, just sometimes, a $12 rosebush can change everything. Thanks for riding along on this wild story with me. If it hooked you, hit that like button, and I'll see you next time with even crazier neighborhood drama. Until then, stand tall against the bullies in your own backyard.